Each storm-soaked flower has a beautiful eye, and this is the voice of the cold stone sky. Only boys keep their cheeks dry. Only boys are afraid to cry. Men thank God for tears, alone with the memory of their dead, alone with lost years. Vachel Lindsay. My very, very close friend killed himself in August of 2023. And I have not been the same since. There's a big part of my innocence, my capacity to enjoy life and be present and actually focus on the positive and all of that really was lost during that time. And grief is a very interesting phenomenon in that it never really goes away. Obviously, it's the most intense typically during the crisis, during the loss, the initial separation. And, suicide has its own layers of emotional turmoil that it stirs up within people who are left behind in its wake. But years afterwards, it still comes and goes, and I find myself wishing that he was here, able to share a lot of the experiences that we have now. And I haven't really been singing as much as I used to. I haven't really been sharing my poetry as much as I used to. I haven't been making art. I've just kind of been surviving. Now, that's not to say that it's all been bad. There have been beautiful, beautiful experiences I've had over the past few years, but it doesn't diminish the fact that there is still a certain longing for something that can never be again. A sense of fracture within my self that has not been totally healed. It's scabbed over. Yeah, there's a lot of scar tissue there, but it hasn't returned back to its normal, soft, pliable, comfortable condition. It is rigid and distorted and twisted in ways that this unresolved grief has left it. And, my friend, he used to play guitar. He used to sing. We used to talk about life. He was also an inventor. He was very, very good with technology and, health hacks and things like that. And I just assumed that we were going to have the rest of our lives together. But, he's been gone for 2.5 years. And I never got to ask him why he did what he did. I never got to there wasn't that closure that you get, when somebody has cancer or they die of old age, or they die of some type of freak accident. Even in that, there's a sense of closure because, that was fate. But when someone takes their own life, it creates immense guilt. And a sorrow that just can't be quenched. I'm gonna pull up one of the journal entries that I wrote during the time that he initially passed away and continue this discussion, because I think it's really important to talk about, the suicide crisis and the fact that so many people, so many young people especially, have been taking their own lives. Drug overdoses and suicide are now like the leading cause of death amongst, adolescents and young adults, as far as I know. And so it's very vital that we discuss this, because I really miss him, and I know that a lot of people are also going through similar things. I know also that one of the other friends of his, she tried to take her own life after he did. It's almost like this psychological contagion that spreads amongst the people left behind, where if we're not able to support ourselves through family and friends and loved ones and some grace for ourselves, that same dark inertia, that same shame and guilt spiral can lead us to want to take our own lives in response to our friend or loved one taking their life. You know, I dealt with suicidal thoughts over the summer, and I had to go see a therapist. It's not an uncommon thing, and I think, you know, we have to talk about it. So this is where I want to discuss, if I can find it, if you'll bear with me. Okay, here we go. This is dated September 5th, 2023, and it's called At the Edge. Today at work, I almost cried at least 6 times in the middle of my workflow. I may have intellectualized my way to some conclusions about all his suicide that in theory should help me feel better, but the truth is, I feel utterly heartbroken. I feel disoriented, like I can't find solid ground to stand on, like everything is up in the air. Nothing my mind comes across resolves this sense of confusion, nor does it do anything to resolve my grief. I still fluctuate between shock, denial, guilt, sadness, and frustration. I don't know what's happening. This can't possibly be real. If only I did X, Y, and Z, then he would still be here. He's actually gone. Why didn't anyone stop him? Out of all these emotions, there's one in particular that I'm running from. Grief. There are tints of guilt that color this grief and other feelings I have yet to name or uncover. I feel this grief bubbling up to the surface, trying to be felt, trying to be freed. But I am terrified to allow myself to open the dam. For my whole adult life, I have bottled up my sorrow, only allowing small, manageable amounts to be released. Ever since my breakup with my first girlfriend, my relationship to my tears, my sadness, and my emotional pain has been one of repression, self-loathing, fear, and dissociation. I desperately want to feel my sorrow in its entirety. In its salty, damp depths, I want to hear my wails without contempt, and yet I can't bring myself to take the plunge into my abyss. I'm afraid that I will feel pain I'm not ready to handle. I'm afraid that if I start to let go and allow my tears to flow freely, that I won't be able to stop. I'm afraid that I'll hate myself even more. I'm afraid that everyone will abandon me or pathologize me or simply think I'm pathetic and weak. And so I always make sure the lock is tight on the chest that holds my broken heart. Even though I know that this unfelt pain is poisoning my soul, I never allow myself to fully feel it. How do I stop this? How do I surrender to myself? The only one I'm running from is me. And funny enough, during that time, I had taken a break from having an Xbox. You know, if you know anything about my background and my story, I've played video games on and off for my entire life, and I got made fun of amongst my friends group for selling my Xbox, you know, periodically from time to time. And after he died, I dove right back into it. I played a bunch of Destiny 2 and some other games. I got back into Call of Duty. I got into World of Warcraft. I just, all of it. Everything I could immerse myself into. I was just trying to, totally numb out and not focus on all the stuff I was running from. And I'm not saying that video games in and of themselves are bad. I think they're a very valuable art form. And there's many, many different types of video games, and they can't all be lumped into one homogenous category. But intention has a lot to do with the problem here. And the intention this time around was a lot of escapism. And I've since healed a lot of that and have been able to moderate my usage a heck of a lot more, being able to take breaks whenever I need to, for however long I need to. And, it's overall, it's just been a lot of running from these feelings. And so, sorry, I know that I'm just kind of rambling, but I just feel like this is important, and I'm definitely going to be making more videos on this because I think that talking about mental health is incredibly important, especially given the state of the world we're in. Don't even get me started on current events. But yeah, that was a journal entry from 2023, so I would like to read something from more recently that reflects a little bit more deeply my current, where I've gotten to in my healing from losing my friend to suicide. And if I can find the right thing here. Well, no, that's more so about artificial intelligence. But I'm going to just read a poem instead as a result. I don't even know what that is trying to say there. So, yeah, here we go. Your ankle is swollen. You wear a mask of false hope, a thin veneer of positivity to hide the grimace of suffering underneath. I see weariness and fear in your eyes. You know the others are blind, but I, gazing intently, am untouched by your lies. A sadness bubbles to the surface. Tears well up in the corners. For a brief moment, the windows open. You long to let your grief free, but that is too great a risk to bear. The stream ceases, coldness returns, frost-glazed eyes float above a pained smile. How long have you been limping? I ask. I'm not limping. I'm just tired, you say with a wince. I look down at the swollen ankle. How many times have you stepped in that hole? I ask. I don't step in holes. What a foolish thing to do, you say through a fiery glare. You rush forward, breaking pace with my steps. The limp becomes exaggerated from force and denial. Too many times, I say to myself. One thing's for certain, healing is not linear, and this is an ongoing process, and I encourage you to talk to somebody if you have loved ones that you've lost to suicide, or if you're dealing with those thoughts yourself. I get it. Life is tough, and we're in a really tough time in the world right now. So, whoever you are, wherever you are, I just want to say that if I could, I would give you a big hug right now. I'm very grateful for any of you watching, and I would like to think that we're having some type of dialogue around a campfire out in the wilderness and just talking about what's going on in our lives and in the world. So let's face the storm. together. I'll see you in the next video.